Did you know that 2021 is the 100th anniversary of the end of Tulsa, Oklahoma's Black Wall Street? This event has long been ignored or forgotten in American history. Tulsa's Black Wall Street was one of the most affluent communities of color that has ever existed in the United States. This 36-block area boasted numerous businesses, including 30 grocery stores, 21 restaurants, 21 churches, 2 movie theaters, pawn shops, brothels, jewelry stores, a hospital, a bank, a post office, libraries, schools, law offices, half a dozen private airplanes, and even a bus system. The dollar circulated 36 to 100 times among the local population. Unfortunately, this prosperity did not last. On June 1st, 1921, race riots broke out, and within 12 hours, most of the community was destroyed.
Community officials and civil rights leaders spent this day in Tulsa, Oklahoma, marking the 100th anniversary of the race massacre in the city's Greenwood district. That neighborhood, once among the most prosperous for Black Americans, was known as Black Wall Street. White mobs killed many Black residents and left the neighborhood in smoldering ruins. Today, there was a soil dedication attended by the last remaining survivors to remember those who were killed. And throughout the weekend, there have been parades, calls for reparations, celebrations, and special church services. For many years, the massacre was less recognized in Oklahoma and nationally, but that has changed. We're going to look at the legacy tonight, beginning with an excerpt from a special documentary airing on PBS. And then Yamichelle Sindor has a conversation with an activist. Let's start with the history detailed in Tulsa, the Fire, and the Forgotten, narrated by Michelle Martin.
Throughout the mayhem, thousands of Black Tulsans were rounded up and confined to fairgrounds and ball fields. The National Guard imposed martial law on June 1st. Thereafter, Black citizens were required to carry identity cards. The rampage lasted an estimated 16 hours. It ended on the evening of June 1st with more than 35 square blocks of the district destroyed. 10,000 Black people were left homeless and destitute. Hundreds were injured. The precise number of dead is unknown. Estimates range from 39 to 300.
After the massacre, hundreds fled to towns around Tulsa or to other states. We also know that there were those who were murdered and buried in mass graves. The third group were those who were taken and put into internment camps. So this is what happened to the Black community, and one has to stop and think what that means. The devastation of losing your home, your business, family members, and then to walk out of these internment camps and have to rebuild.
It's unclear as to whether or not we'll ever know the identities of the perpetrators, but let's remember, when we talk about the direct perpetrators, we're talking about thousands of folks, a large segment of the white male population in the community. We know through ancillary evidence that parts of the leadership of the community were at least complicit in what happened. We know, for example, that the Tulsa Tribune, the daily afternoon newspaper, published a series of incendiary articles and editorials that really fomented hostility in the white community against the Black community.
Despite the unprecedented horrors of May 31st and June 1st, no perpetrators were charged or tried. Indeed, the victimized community was blamed.
After the massacre, a grand jury made of 12 white men appointed by the governor indicted a number of Black citizens for the massacre, the riot, they called it, and some whites as well. But in the end, the grand jury effectively blamed it on the Black community of Greenwood.
The Tulsa City Commission issued a report 2 weeks after the massacre. In it, Mayor T.D. Evans was unequivocal. Let the blame for this Negro uprising lie right where it belongs, on those armed Negroes and their followers who started this trouble and who instigated it.
We've since unearthed the City Commission meeting minutes from that era, as well as the meeting minutes from the Chamber of Commerce from that era. What you see in both is almost immediate recognition after the event happened of shame and embarrassment, and a desire to try and cover it up, believing, I think accurately, that it did not reflect well on Tulsa.
This is Tulsa, one of the richest cities in the country and oil capital of the world.
Tulsa's civic and business leaders succeeded in suppressing the truth of the carnage, and the city resumed business as usual. The white community continued to prosper. The black community did not. For decades, massacre survivors and their descendants sought compensation for their losses from city government and insurance companies to no avail.
Blackface. America is not new to scandals about blackface.
Blackface minstrelsy had tremendous power, and the whole idea of objectifying a person and taking away their humanity and reducing them to stereotypes and images and making fun of them is a painful experience for those people who are the subject of this kind of treatment.
Mammy, I'm coming. Oh, God, I hope I'm not late.
There was a controversy on The Real Housewives of New York with Luann, as she dresses Diana Ross, and she made her skin look darker than it really is, and people said that that was racist. And I don't know, I thought, like, who doesn't love Diana Ross?
I think it's going to take some time to move past it. These are just isolated instances that we know on a wide public scale. This history and the prevalence of this history is widespread, and I think this is the perfect opportunity to engage in those dialogues that use blackface minstrelsy as an example of how race has functioned in this society and how it continues to curtail us for really treating each other fairly and responsibly and championing equality for all.